Governor Deal says he'll call legislators back for a special session if they don't fully fund the state's transportation needs. The heat is now on lawmakers who've shied away from voting what they see as a big tax hike. Is the hotly contested religious freedom bill dead after it was tabled in a House committee? Or can it still be revived? Our team at the Capitol will have a live report on all the latest news from under the gold dome. Lawmakers starts right now. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Bill Nigut. It is day 38 and the pace has gotten frantic as lawmakers grapple with dozens of bills in the waning hours of this year's session. We have a lot on our plate tonight, but first let's check in with Pat St. Clair for tonight's Capitol Report. Hi, Pat. Pretty busy down there, huh?
Yes, Bill, it is. We have talked a lot about the medical marijuana bill that won final legislative approval this week in the House and Senate. Well, today, Governor Deal put his stamp of approval on the bill with an executive order that begins the legal process of making medical cannabis oil available to those who need it. For today's announcement, the governor was joined by the bill's sponsor and some of the families who pushed hard to get the bill passed.
It is an executive order that requires the Medical Composite Board to create a patient waiver and physician certification form, which the Department of Public Health will then be making available to patients. Once these forms are completed, individuals and parents of children with qualifying conditions can then take this form to their physician, who must sign off and certify that the patient meets the criteria.
Families who left the state to get cannabis oil to treat their children's seizure and other disorders say they are relieved to be able to return home. HB1, also known as Haley's Hope, is named after Jania Cox's daughter.
We can come back from Colorado and not have to worry about being away from each other. It's been hard on our family. It's been extremely hard on our family when Haley would have to be in the hospital and my husband wasn't there to be our support system. So to be able to come back home and with Haley's medicine, it's done wonders for her. Going from 200 plus seizures a day and on her deathbed to a smiling, happy girl who says words now and looks us in the eye and lets us know she's in there.
Mike Hopkins is another parent who moved to Colorado to get cannabis oil for his 4 children, all who suffer from seizure disorders. But for 2 of his children, 21-year-old Mary Elizabeth and 6-year-old Abraham, the measure comes too late.
It has been a tough year. Honestly, I have not had a chance to grieve my children. And I stand here blessed today by the efforts of all these people that have given so much. I mean, it was, I'm just thankful and tremendously blessed, and appreciate the help from all of you as well to make this awareness of it. Like we've all said, this is the first step. We've got a long way to go.
According to Representative Alan Peake, that long way to go would be growing and cultivating medical marijuana in Georgia so that families won't have to transport cannabis oil across state lines.
We're in fact the first in the country to have what is in effect a hybrid model, that it is a rich CBD, low THC oil product, but it's for more diagnoses than just seizure disorders, but also not as full-blown as as the other 23 states that have full-blown in-state cultivation models. So I believe this is a kind of unique step in the country, and glad to be on the leading edge for Georgia to be leading in this direction.
Governor Deal plans to sign the bill sometime next month after the session ends. Well, one thing the governor did not talk about today was his threat of calling a special session if the legislature can't pass a transportation bill that he likes. A House-Senate Conference Committee is currently working on a compromise for the billion-dollar plan, but so far both sides are still very far apart. Well, one of the many interesting things about the legislative session is resurrection bills. Bills that you may have thought were dead can sometimes come back to life in the final days. That is the case with HB 194, sponsored by Representative Mark Hamilton. It would make sharp cuts to the state's early voting period and restrict voting on the weekends to 4 hours on either a Saturday or a Sunday, but not both days. That bill missed the crossover day deadline, but it has now been attached to an ethics bill, SB 127. Senator Vincent Fort believes that's wrong.
Every year, the Republican Party comes back with another bill to restrict access of voters to the polling booth, whether it be voter ID laws or other restrictions, and this is just one more attempt to restrict the access to the ballot, and we thought that it might have been dead, but it's been given new life by being tacked onto another bill. We'll fight it as Democrats and as African American legislators. We'll fight it when it comes back over to the Senate.
Ford says if the bill gets to the floor, he does believe it has a good chance of passing in the Senate. But he says he and other opponents will do all they can to keep it from coming to the floor. We did try to contact Representative Hamilton, who sponsored the bill, for a comment from him, but we did not hear back from him by our deadline. One of the bills that has not gotten much attention is HB 505, which would modernize standards for physical therapists in Georgia for the first time in more than 20 years. The bill is a compromise between different groups in the medical community, including chiropractors and physical therapists. But even with the compromise, there are still many questions.
This bill brings Georgia in line with 41 states and the U.S. military by allowing patient self-referral to physical therapy treatment.
I'm getting a lot of calls from my doctors who are concerned that the physical therapists would be allowed to manipulate the spine. There
is a turf war here, and this is nothing new. Both groups have been doing it. They don't perform the subluxations, but the language has been agreed to, and opposition from the chiropractors has been settled.
Even though there was more than an hour of debate, the bill passed easily on a vote of 46-6 and now goes to the governor for his signature. Well, that is it from the Capitol. Bill, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Pat. Are they still in session on both sides down there tonight? Do you know at this moment?
I think they have finally adjourned.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We see a lot of activity behind you. Thank you so much for your report tonight.
Sure.
All right. Let's turn to our panel here in the studio. First, joining me for our discussion, Loretta Lepore. She is a Republican strategist and media expert. Also, former state representative Edward Lindsey, who is now looking at ways to help make a peace around the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. We also are going to be talking, we think, to Senator Josh McKoon. He, of course, is the sponsor of SB 129, the bill that right now is going through real problems down at the state capitol. So let's start here on the set if we can. Loretta, why don't I give you a chance to help us understand what's going on with RFRA right now? Of course, it's already passed the Senate.
Correct.
And it's been sitting in the House for some time. Yesterday, the Judiciary Committee took up the measure, and an amendment was introduced.
Correct.
That would essentially assure that this was not an that this was not a discrimination measure, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So not a discrimination measure. So the language actually said that, the bill would not discriminate or violate any federal, state, or local statutes currently on the books with regard to discrimination. And the amendment was passed by a 9-8 vote with a couple of Republicans crossing over to give it that approval rating. And then the supporters of the bill actually made a motion to table the bill.
They've said all along this is not a measure intended to discriminate, but given the opportunity to include an amendment would guarantee that, they withdrew it. Senator Josh McKoon, I understand, is now down in our Capitol camera. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
First of all, and I've got Edward Lindsay and Loretta Lepore here on the set, and I want to get them into the conversation. But first, I think there's some late afternoon news for us. Your bill has been tabled in the House Judiciary Committee, and many people thought that was the end of it. There's now going to be a House Judiciary Committee meeting Monday morning. Is that happening to take up your measure again and get it back onto the agenda?
Well, they've asked me to be there at 10 a.m. on Monday morning, so I certainly hope so.
Okay. Senator, help us understand why, when the House Judiciary Committee added the amendment that was essentially there to assure that it would not be used to discriminate, that it would not overrule state and local laws already on the books about discrimination, was there a decision made to table the bill? Isn't it just make sense to want to state clearly this is not an attempt to discriminate?
Well, there are a couple of issues there, Bill. First of all, as we've discussed before, there have been no cases of Religious Freedom Restoration Act language being interpreted to authorize any sort of invidious discrimination. So the language is unnecessary to begin with, but when you add the local law piece and you start talking about 159 counties, hundreds of cities, you're talking about maybe 800 plus different interpretations of what is going to be allowed under the bill. And at that point, it really didn't make sense to go forward.
So what is your best hope for what happens on Monday morning? That this bill gets picked back up and gets back into the pipeline, I assume.
Well, I'm hoping we're going to have some discussions over the next few days and see if we can get the language right so that we can move forward and restore free exercise claims to that highest constitutional review standard of strict scrutiny. You know, the governor of Indiana, of course, signed a similar religious freedom measure into law yesterday. He is already getting some heat. The NCAA has contacted the state of Indiana and said they're not pleased about the fact that their Final Four is going to be held there next year. They don't like the idea of working in that environment. They've heard from some corporations already. Are you worried that if you were able to get this back and pass it, you might have the same reaction from various parties here in Georgia? I'm not worried at all about that, Bill. You know, some of the top convention cities in the country, Chicago, Illinois, Orlando, Florida, New Orleans, Louisiana, they all have statutory religious freedom restoration acts, much like Senate Bill 129. It's not affecting their business. I'm sure we're going to hear a little hiccup here in Indiana for a couple of days, and then it'll be on to another topic. All right, let me bring former Representative Lindsay into the conversation. Mr. Lindsay, you've attempted to find some way to help bring these parties together. How would you do that? What's your proposal?
Well, first off, you know, what Josh is trying to do and what the folks in the House are trying to do is something I think is important, which is to make sure that religious freedom is placed on the same tier as freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and freedom of the press. That's what the core purpose of the original RFRA law was that came out of the U.S. Congress in 1993, and that was the hopeful purpose of a lot of other states. However, as we've gone through the process and we've seen folks for and against this bill, I do think it's a legitimate concern by a lot of folks to make sure that a bill that has a lot of good reasons for it is not misused by anyone for discriminatory purposes. So I do think it's important for us to do that. And to address the concerns that Senator McCoon raised about a Tower of Babel occurring as a result of bringing in local ordinances, that simply hasn't taken place in the couple of states that have included anti-discrimination language. And in fact, those states have operated well. The fact of the matter is we don't have a state civil rights law. We do have, however, a lot of local jurisdictions, including the city of Atlanta, that has some very strong anti-discrimination laws. And the folks who are in favor of trying to craft a compromise recognize that fact and want to make sure that jurisdictions like Atlanta and others around the state, their anti-discrimination laws are not somehow usurped by this.
So you're go ahead.
But on the same token, there were some folks raised a concern last night when this amendment passed that it would somehow infringe upon not only business and secular activities, but also would somehow interfere with religious institutions like churches, synagogues, etc., and private schools. And so what my proposal is, what I think we ought to be doing, is putting in a carve-out that rather specifically recognizes that churches, synagogues, private schools that are church-related, other nonprofit religious-based organizations will be covered by this bill.
Okay.
But secular activities, business activities, will get the protection of...
Senator McCoon, are you still there?
I am.
You probably heard what Edward Lindsay just said. Could you go along with what he's suggesting?
Well, as I said in committee the other day, and I'll say to begin with, I appreciate Representative Lindsay trying to move the ball forward on this and get us to a place where we can get a bill moved. The Texas legislation, which I believe he referred to in a meeting we had earlier this week, there are two efforts going on right now. I think one in the House that has been suspended, and then one in the Texas State Senate that is still ongoing, to try to amend the Texas Constitution to include language that more closely mirrors the federal language because of problems that occurred when you try to get into this issue of creating some kind of anti-discrimination language in the bill. I think what we need to talk about is trusting the judges, trusting Georgia judges to be able to make this balancing test work as they've done in 28 other states.
Senator, thank you. I know this is complicated. There's a lot more we could discuss, but we do have to move on. So thank you very much, Senator McCoon. We'll be watching very carefully how this develops on Monday in committee. Loretta, it's time now for the business community, I think, which has said they oppose this legislation, to get back to the table, and apparently they're beginning to move in that direction right now.
Well, they were very vocal last year, and this year they have not been outwardly vocal, but they have been working behind the scenes and working with committee members and with legislators to try to incorporate some of the language and so forth that Ed has proposed as a solution. And they see that as a viable middle ground to moving this bill forward. And I know that Senator McCoon does not think that perhaps what happened in Indiana and the publicity that that's drawing is a factor, but the optics of the bill is a factor.
Yeah.
And we do know that Georgia's convention and visitors bureaus from around the state have sent a letter already saying that we have $15 million worth of business on the line.
Okay, we have to leave it lie right there. Another bill that is really hanging in the fire as we move to the last days of the session is the legislation that would carve out a couple of new cities, La Vista Hills and Tucker, up in the northern part of DeKalb. This bill, we thought, was all set, was all greased, it was going to go through. I understand Senator Fran Miller, who's been very involved in this legislation, is our camera at the Capitol right now. Senator, the Senate chief... I'm sorry, Senator Miller is not ready yet. So we'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's hold that conversation. Okay. I thought he was there. Right. So let's talk about another thing relatively quickly. Loretta, the governor threatening a special session if the legislature doesn't come up with a plan that will create at least $1 billion this year. Does he really mean that, or is it the only leverage he has left this late in the session?
Oh, I think he absolutely does mean it. I think, if you look at his agenda and what he set out in the State of the State, 3 of the primary things that he talked about, which was school reform, criminal justice reform, and transportation. But no, there was another big one too. But most of them, with the exception of transportation, the things that he laid out have been done. This is the one remaining item, and I think he's absolutely, completely serious about making this happen this year. And he wants it to be big, and he wants it to be bold, and he wants to do it one time and one time only.
Mr. Lindsay, you were actually part of the task force that went out and looked at the needs that the state has. The $1 billion is, everybody seems to agree we need it. Do you think the Senate, which has resisted a higher excise tax that will help put us over the $1 billion mark, is going to get in line, or are we going to go to a special session?
Well, something needs to be done, because the $1 billion mark is an absolute necessity. And having traveled around the state for 6 months with representatives and senators and members of the chamber and other folks, we came away understanding very clearly that getting our transportation in line was a necessity for 3 reasons. Number one, it's a public safety issue. Almost half of our roads are rated in either fair or poor condition, but last year we only had enough money to upgrade 2% of those roads. Secondly, it's a quality of life issue. Most people do not consider at the time they spend in a car to be where they want to be. And so we have one of the worst traffic jams in the country.
All right, we've got to take a break.
I understand that.
So we're going to leave that lie too. This is going to be the 40th day, 11th hour. At this point, it's beginning of the week. All right, thank you. Look, both of you, please stay right where you are. Fran Miller is in position at the Capitol. But before we get to him, the Senate passed a measure today that would clear up some concerns about annexation. In short, the bill would ensure that properties in areas that are de-annexed wouldn't be considered small islands. But some senators were concerned that part of the bill had to be altered to appease commercial property owners. Let's listen.
It did not come out of the House this way. The original bill is a fine bill and totally innocuous. It was slid in committee. They hoped no one would notice, and that they could come back and accomplish what they have been unable to do through the will of the people, the will of the General Assembly, and the courts of our great state. And you will see that it says, as of January 1st, 2013, on line 53. Guess what happened on July 1st, 2013? That is the day that this particular commercial property owner applied to be annexed to the other city. This is a sweetheart deal that does not smell right. It stinks to high heaven.
There's a very impassioned Senator Elena Parent on the floor today talking about annexation. That section was removed from the bill, and it ended up passing 48-0. So we're going to take a break right now. Fran Miller is at the Capitol waiting to talk to us about the DeKalb County cities. We'll get to that when we return.
It's one of those industries where you never know what's coming around the next corner. My day is a whole series of planning and getting things ready. We are here to serve the citizens of the state of Georgia. We want to increase our viewership's experience of the world out there. I know that a lot of people feel like they're chosen to do certain things, and I really think that that's what happened to me. I'm Ross Szymanski, Television Operations Manager at Georgia Public Broadcasting.
This is 88.5 FM, Atlanta's news source for your news and information.
Good morning. Let's start the conversation. What's on your mind, Atlanta? We want to hear from you.
The news and information you've been looking for is here on 88.5.
From Peachtree City to Piedmont Park, from Norcross to Decatur, GPB Atlanta is the source for stories from your community.
All news, all information, all day.
We had less than 24 hours to evacuate.
There was a sea of people wanting to get out.
It was a terrible moral dilemma. Who goes and who gets left behind?
They looked up at the helicopters and I could see their eyes. Desperate eyes.
On March 27, 1941, Governor Eugene Talmadge signed a bill making it a felony for any person, including a minister, to handle or possess a poisonous snake in a manner that would endanger any other person. The act did not prevent a person from voluntarily handling a poisonous snake so long as no one else was in danger. Never let it be said you're not learning interesting things watching this show. You know, handling poisonous snakes would probably be preferable to some of the bills that still need to be handled downtown. Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm here tonight with Loretta Lepore, a Republican strategist and media expert, and former state representative Edward Lindsey. Again, thank you both for being with us. We started to talk about the DeKalb County cities bills. Fran Miller is now with us down at the Capitol. So Edward and Loretta, let's talk to them. Fran, there were some problems in carving out La Vista Hills and Tucker in the Senate the other day. At the last minute, a line was redrawn that changed the borders of the two. The House seemed not to be happy about that. The question is, are you going to get this taken care of this session, or are we going to go another year without those cities being given the chance to be created?
Well, Bill, we made a lot of changes to the map that came over from the House. We had to take out Executive Park and Children's Hospital, which is now part of Brookhaven. Representative Mary Margaret Oliver had come to me, and we did some changes on the southern part of the border, up in what you're calling about the contested area. Last year we had what I'll call a compromise, the Jacob Compromise. It was agreed to, and then at the end, one of the parties, what I'll call, reneged on it. And I want you to understand the contested area, we're talking about 1,800 people. I am their senator. And in public forum, in polling and such, a large majority of these people want to be part of La Vista Hills. And in fact, in the committee process in the Senate, after that passed, Senator Henson actually had an amendment to eliminate 3,800 people as plus $1 million of revenue from the city of Tucker, and it was defeated in committee by the Republicans. So that would have had a lot more dramatic effect on Tucker than my 1,800 people.
So with the couple of seconds we have left, is it your feeling that we're going to end up with a bill that will allow for people to vote on creating those two cities?
I hope so, because this will be the last area that I represent that would not be municipalized. And I've about run out of cityhood options at this point. And I do think the legislature as a whole gets somewhat tired of DeKalb issues. We've passed 4 of the reforms this year. So, you know, the joke is, and Edward would appreciate this, if it wasn't for DeKalb and Fulton counties, we'd be out of here in 20 days.
Senator Fred Miller, this is something you've been working on for a while. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us
Bill.
tonight. Is he right, Edward?
He's absolutely right. Folks were always tired about DeKalb and Fulton County bills.
One of the big issues here has had to do with the ethical issues in DeKalb County government, and a feeling that some residents out that way want to get away from that mire of corruption that they've watched develop in DeKalb. Now Mike Bowers has been brought in by the CEO of the county to take a look at all that. Public relations or a real effort to root out corruption?
I think it's a real effort, and I think we've seen some surprise resignations over there in the county, and I think that the intent by the CEO is to get to the bottom of problems and clean up the what appears to be a PR problem as well as a legitimate issue.
Okay, so we talked briefly. We started talking. Sure. We're jumping a little bit here, and you two are great to stay with us. We started talking about transportation and whether or not we were going to get $1 billion in revenue back, so the governor doesn't call a special session. Jay Roberts, who's been working on this bill diligently in the House as chairman of the Transportation Committee, is now at our Capitol position. Representative, thank you so much for joining us. How optimistic are you that you can find a compromise with the Senate that will bring revenues back up to $1 billion, or are you really going to come back in late June for a special session?
You know, we definitely don't want to be back here in June, and you know, we've been having conversations with the Senate, and I think we're getting close. You know, we've got a lot more points that we agree on than we disagree on, so I think we're making some progress, and hopefully by next Tuesday we'll have a bill on the floor.
So I'm a little puzzled by one aspect of that. Your counterpart in the Senate, Tommy Williams, chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, has said over and over again that he doesn't think he can get senators to vote for an excise tax as high as 29.2 or more cents. If he can't get them to do that, where does that additional revenue come from?
Well, you know, we're exploring all options right now, and I do think that there will be some give and take on that excise tax, and I think that we can possibly get there. What we want is a dedicated, reliable source for transportation, not only for now, but in the future.
All right. Representative Roberts, we'll be watching. We imagine you're going to go. Edward Lindsay, I think, predicted already this is a 40th day, 11th hour kind of vote. Do you agree with him?
I sure hope not.
Thanks for being with us tonight. Representative Lindsay, if you were the governor, you'd be using the stick to get some of these recalcitrant members who don't want to vote for a tax increase on board. But would you also be extending a carrot, telling these people who feel they're going to be endangered in re-election campaigns that you will do everything you can to work hard for their re-election, including putting some money into their campaign? And
I would expect the governor to be there for them to help, quite frankly, explain the necessity back home. The fact of the matter is, other states that have taken this tough stand, Virginia, for instance, a lot of folks were threatened, well, they won't ever come back. They all came back.
All right. We are completely, that was the fastest paced show we've done so far. Loretta Lepore, Edward Lindsay, thanks for being a part of it. We're out of time. Day 38 is over. We will see you again next Tuesday on Lawmakers.
This is a GPB original production.